Get full episodes of The Damage Report as a podcast on iTunes and Android, and you can watch the live show every weekday on YouTube TV. Let's talk about what are the Democrats actually going to do with their House majority. We've debated what they should do on the show previously. It is likely at this point that Nancy Pelosi will be the speaker. I mean, there's time for development, but that's the way things look like they're going, regardless of what we might want, and we might disagree. But she has posted an op-ed in the Washington Post detailing what she wants the agenda for the new House majority to be. So let's break down a couple of these different areas. These are excerpts directly from the op-ed. You can go read that if you want to see the entire thing. Interestingly, the first order of business, she says, is ending the dominance of money in politics. For far too long, big money and corporate special interests have undermined the will of the people and subverted policymaking in Washington, enabling soaring healthcare costs and prescription drug prices, undermining blah, blah, blah. And all these bad things. So money in politics leads to bad outcomes. I think that is a great thing to have first in the agenda. But I think it's a little bit weird because she also constantly says that the reason she should be speaker is because she's the best fundraiser in America.
It's like the main argument for her.
Yeah, so, I mean, that seems weird, don't you think? Like, okay, I mean, it would be more admirable if the best fundraiser in the country was willing to lay down her arms by banning money in politics. But I don't know, I don't really see that. I mean, look, I get what she would probably say. She would say, I don't want to get money from all these different things. I want to get it from, I guess, unions or regular people. There are people out there who are doing that, like Beto was doing that. Bernie certainly has done. Lots of politicians have been doing that recently. Kamala Harris and Kirsten Gillibrand have banned corporate PAC money. Has Nancy Pelosi? I don't think so.
This also just reminds me, it's just like when you were thinking, like, what is next? Well, lucky for you, Nancy Pelosi wrote an article. It reminds me it reminds me of Jeff Flake's tweets. It's like, I think that we've gotten to this space where, and not at all like I believe that she just isn't behind any of this and is not gonna do anything, but this is just not what people want and need. They don't need a list of just your thoughts.
Oh, I'm fine with the list.
Right, I think they need like you to break it down. Just pick one of these and just break it down for the average person, exactly what your plan is, not what you think we should do, because the cute thing about this is that a lot of people who have been voting on the Democratic side have been saying this to them. So it's cool, we're there, we match. Tell me how you're gonna fix it, because we're already there and you're in the space to actually make these things happen. We've already agreed on this.
There are some details in other areas, but like she doesn't say, I'm going to sponsor a constitutional amendment that will ban money in politics. Like there's nothing that, I don't know how she's actually gonna do it. She says she's interested in it, so without a solution being put on paper, I have to look at your past, which, look, maybe Nancy Pelosi's only as bad as a lot of other politicians in this area, but that's pretty bad when it comes to money in politics. I mean, it is still big. It's not as bad on the Democratic side as it is on the Republican side, but it's really bad on both sides. Now, on other areas, she does have some more details.
That's true.
So, and this gets into a little bit of the lobbyist stuff, but she says we will expand conflict of interest laws, ban members of Congress from serving on for-profit boards, revamp the oversight authority of the Office of Government Ethics. Good, that's big on a lot of people's lists. And prohibit public servants from receiving bonus payments from their former employers to enter government. So a little bit of that revolving door stuff. That is good, and certainly politicians, giving industry what they want, knowing that they will one day go to serve those industries as lobbyists. That is big. I don't think that that's the lion's share. I think that the direct contributions while they're in office is a far bigger problem, and I don't see anything there that would actually deal with that. And here's the thing.
Ditto.
It's not like Nancy Pelosi in the short term is gonna be able to snap her fingers and there goes money in politics, but what she could say is, I am going to put pressure on the entire Democratic caucus to not accept corporate PAC money. We're not gonna accept money from fossil fuels. We're not gonna accept money from the pharmaceutical industries. I can't make the Republicans do this, but I will say this, as speaker, I will lead a caucus that will not accept this money. She could try to make that promise, and I don't see that.
Exactly, and I think that's what in a lot of this, even when it's being explained, I think some of the explanations on what you're going to do still need to be broken down, because oftentimes I think voters are hearing, yes, you agree with me, you want this, but we couldn't do it because it just can't be done. There's more of this, there's this and this and this has to be done, so then it's not done. And so I think people need, especially in this space that we're in where younger people are necessary and they're voting and they're paying attention and they want to get it. They want to know what's going on, and this this is a step back for me, and I feel like I'm being kind of a Debbie Downer.
That's okay.
Yeah, is that okay? It's Monday. Yeah.
There's a bit of that. Okay, so a little bit more on voting rights. She says we must renew the Voting Rights Act to protect every citizen's access to the ballot box and restore vital safeguard of pre-clearance requirements for areas with a history of voter suppression. Getting into the fact that for decades, states that had a history of racial voter suppression, if they wanted to make a change, they would have to go through the Supreme Court first. That was stripped away. Since then, we've seen a drastic increase in voter suppression in exactly those states. Hopefully we can reverse that. She says we will promote national automatic voter registration, bolster our critical election infrastructure against foreign attackers, and put an end to partisan gerrymandering once and for all by establishing federal guidelines to outlaw the practice. So look, those are some specific things. Some of them I'm not entirely sure how much Congress can actually do in terms of the oversight of federal, over the voting systems, because right now that is a state thing. I guess a necessary follow-up question would be things like national automatic voter registration and things in that area. I mean, why didn't we do that the last time that you were the Speaker of the House and we had a Democratic Senate and a Democratic president? Those seem like the sorts of things we could have done. Am I being a Debbie Downer? Am I being too picky?
No,
Those are wildly popular things that weren't acted on when we had the authority to do it.
Right.
So maybe we'll do it now.
There
but the situation, what's
that? The problems existed then too.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
We hadn't, they hadn't gotten rid of the Voting Rights Act at that point, but we still had really low voter participation. We had even more restrictive registration deadlines and things like that. We had less vote by mail, but now we have a rise of voter ID and things like that. It seems overdue to do something in this area. And by the way, she does have sort of a grab bag of different other priorities: lower healthcare costs, rebuild US infrastructure, raise the minimum wage, bipartisan solutions to prevent gun violence. That'll get your pulse pumping. Confront discrimination with the Equality Act, pass the DREAM Act. So some of these are specific, some of them are not so much. Rebuild the US infrastructure is a pretty broad thing, but things like raise the minimum wage is very specific. And what makes me glad about this is not that her putting it on paper means that she's necessarily gonna do it, and she's not gonna do it just because we tell her to.
Right.
But there are now an increasing number of people in her caucus that have shown, even before they have the majority, that they're willing to hold her accountable.
And just even the list says, to voters, hey, I'm listening, I hear you. We'll see.
That's good.
But that's good. Yeah.
And the thing is, I would assume that Nancy Pelosi, having been the Speaker and losing control of the House, now finally getting it back after 8 years out in the wilderness, would know that if you write an op-ed like this and then 2 years go by and you don't even try to make progress on these, a House majority that's given to you can be taken away. That's the way our elections have gone. They tend to be very national. People vote in very partisan ways. Now, she will not be able to pass the vast majority of this because the Republicans won't work with her and Donald Trump wouldn't sign it anyway. But she does need to show a willingness to actually try. Pass it in the House, maybe it dies overall, but it puts pressure on the Republicans. It puts them on the record on many of these. Some of these are the most important issues for a lot of voters. So I would like to see action to the extent that she can take it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.